The dynamics in my wife's family always perplexed me, and inexplicable hostility seemed to define every interaction. Every visit from my mother-in-law, Linda, turned into a challenge for both Sarah and me. No matter what Sarah did, Linda found a way to criticize it. Once in a while, she praised, but even then, her compliments carried a caustic tinge. One particular visit left an indelible mark on my memory. Linda threw a look of contempt at Sarah, and that image is imprinted on my memory. Interestingly, Linda never treated me with hostility. Moreover, she was surprisingly friendly. We felt comfortable talking, and she often smiled at me during our conversations. Meanwhile, Sarah was feeling distinctly uncomfortable, her eyes darkening with frustration. Their relationship was undoubtedly strained, a strange, unsettling dynamic that was hard for me to understand. Linda was undeniably attractive despite her age. If she and Sarah stood side by side, people sometimes mistook them for sisters. She was meticulous about her appearance and exuded self-confidence. Eventually, Sarah reached her limit and decided to spend the night at her friend's house, leaving me alone with Linda. I didn't mind. Linda and I had always had a friendly relationship. That night, as we sat down to dinner, I noticed her eyes lingering on me. Every time I looked up, she met my gaze with a flirtatious smile. There was a zest about her that made me feel uneasy. "So, Mike, aren't you sick of my daughter yet?" she suddenly asked in a teasing tone. I almost choked on my food. "No, of course not, Linda," I reply, giggling nervously. She pursed her lips, sizing up my answer. "She's not having any luck, you know." "I'm worried that one day you might give up on her," she added, keeping her eyes on me. There was a sadness in her voice that caught me off guard. I shook my head. I love Sarah. We are one family, for better and for worse. Before I could say anything else, Linda stood up, her sharp nails touching my shoulder as she moved closer. I started to object, but she pressed a finger to my lips. "Don't be too quick to say no, Mike," she whispered. Without waiting for my response, she slid into my lap, her eyes daring me to push her away. "Linda, we can't," I began, but she leaned closer. "Why not?" she muttered, her breath warming my skin. "No one has to know. Just you and me." Her words hung in the air like a dangerous temptation. Some part of me, some dark, hidden part, was reaching for her. The way she looked at me, the way her body pressed against mine, it all seemed so intoxicating, so wrong, and yet so exciting. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. "Linda, this is wrong," I said, this time in a firmer voice. Her expression changed, a flicker of vulnerability on her face. Then she hid it with a smile. "Maybe you're right," she said faintly, standing up slowly, her hands lingering on my shoulders before she stepped back. She threw one last look at me that had regret and something else in it, then turned and walked away, leaving me alone with the weight of what had almost happened. The silence that followed was deafening. I sat for a long time, staring at the empty space where she had been, questions and doubts swarming in my mind. What had just happened? And what would happen the next time Sarah wasn't around? Whatever it was, I knew one thing for sure. Relationships in my wife's family were more complicated than I'd ever imagined, and now I was in the middle of something I'd never expected.